So with us today is a friend of mine, a colleague. We work together. I've known him for some time, Hugo Gatsby from Stradea Design Labs. And Hugo is our first speaker of the term. And there's going to be particular reasons why I chose Hugo to go first. Hugo is very well versed in the marketing world. He runs his own company, which is something that we've talked about in the class. And the thing that I appreciate about Hugo is he always seems to be one or two steps ahead when it comes to marketing, design, teams, and dynamics. But Hugo also has some very interesting corporate clients, and I'm going to ask Hugo to share a little bit about that today. So, Hugo, you're like kicking off like kind of our asynchronous speaker series with the college. And the students are very interested in having these. And in my commitment to the students has always been real world advice for real world applied knowledge. And just dumping theory and academia on the students, you really get that anywhere. We've got a textbook we're working from. It's a good book, Marketing the Core. But I want to use the lens of a real business person. So, thanks for joining us, Hugo. I know you're taking time out of your business, and that really means a lot to me.
Of course, anything for you, Neil.
Hugo, tell us a bit about you and some of the work that you do, and even a typical day, because I know a lot of the students are looking at getting into the marketing field.
Okay. A typical day that doesn't exist. I think that's a trick question.
It was loaded.
Yeah, it was. It was good. It was good. I'll give you like a 30-second overview of me, things that I'm most proud of, and then we can kind of go from there, and I can bring that into the marketing world. So, I am an adult with autism, diagnosed at a very young age. That has given me a certain set of challenges to overcome, mostly in the form of communication and being able to express myself. That's an easy segue into the marketing world and the design world. And I fell in love with design in university. Went to school for graphic design, did a master's in computer science, was able to do a master's in financial management afterwards, because you need to know numbers, you need to understand data for marketing to work. And have always just kind of pushed the thought forward. Marketing is actually very easy. It's simply just being genuine. I think early in my career, I tried to do what everybody was expecting of me. And with that came a certain level of frustration and anxiety. It wasn't until later in my 30s where I really started to develop my own style, my own communication, because I was doing it for all the right reasons at that point. And Neil, I met you, later in my 30s, where I really started to take strides. I was working with the Bank of Montreal. I led the entire digital marketing platform for Canada, helped implement what we call behavioral science. And that's basically just understanding people, understanding people's behaviors. And that's really what marketing is all about. And from there, I just kept moving forward. Now I work with government relations firms. I'm an advisor, or senior consultant at Deloitte, working with them as well. Have a slew of entrepreneurs, small businesses who I work with, and help them thrive in that marketing landscape. I primarily work in accessibility web design right now, and I think the reason for that is because of my own neurodiversities, being autistic and having challenges with working with interactive media. But what I really noticed is that with COVID, everything has gone digital, and that's been a real big challenge. So I've really started to focus myself on implementing digital and traditional marketing together and finding a way to actually track the success of it, because historically traditional marketing hasn't been able to be tracked properly. But now with the advent of QR codes and Google Analytics and very simple tools, learning just a little bit gets you a very long way. But you have to be just a little bit creative and genuine about it. You have to really want to do these things. And that's the trick, because people can see through you being fake and giving a facade. Really, it's just about genuinely caring about the customer you're trying to adopt and to do whatever behavior you want, and then selling them on why you think you're the solution for them.
Yeah, you said a few things that we just covered off last week. Was marketing is really about the consumer, not about what you think the consumer wants, but the consumer really wants. And then we talked a bit about times right now are exponential. We talk about exponential change, when most organizations are just incrementally growing at best. And there's always that tipping point where they become irrelevant. But I'm glad you mentioned the measurement of marketing too. And I got a couple extra questions for you, but the measurement of the marketing is now you can do it digitally, which we never really had a number of decades ago. You weren't able to do it. So marketing always became that department down the end of the hall, right? And there's a lot of shows on it too, like scotch in the drawer of the desk and stuff like that. That's not marketing anymore. Marketing's more professional. Hugo, what's the importance of marketing not only in your business but with your clients? Like, how important is marketing?
Um, it's a mixed review, because I feel like marketing, there's a few elements of marketing. One is to build awareness. So if you're a brand new business and you have no awareness, then it's a very difficult challenge. The other side of it is to build that consideration factor. And when we say consideration, it's a person sees your ads enough that when they need that product, they think of you to say, oh, I remember that guy, he did those things. And the last part is the deciding factor. So are they going to decide to go with you or not? And so marketing has a three-pronged approach in that sense.
Okay.
The other side of it is networking. A lot of my work comes from just proper networking. So I have a client, I work really hard on the client, I do a great job. When someone asks them who would they recommend, hopefully they say my company name, and I get a lot of work that way. Now, that is also a level of marketing, because you have to work on the relationship, and customer relationships are very, very important in business success as well as marketing. And there's something called a customer relationship management system, so our CRM system you might hear.
Just touched on, yeah.
Yes, and those are really, really important, because all it really is doing is making sure that you're keeping a line of communication open with all of your prospective customers and all of your past customers, because it's easier to get a new customer from a customer you already have than to go out and just find one all willy-nilly. And I use that term because I'm secretly 85 years old.
Hugo, pull your mic up just a hair.
Yep. Is this better?
Yep, that's better.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes. So that's how marketing kind of works. The analytical side of it is really neat, because you can track a lot of digital platforms where people are coming from, how people are engaging on your social media, how many people are coming to your website, what pages are they going on, how often are they staying at your pages. Google does a great job with even just breaking down the gender, the tool that you're using, whether it be mobile, tablet, or desktop, certain behaviors, certain actions. So you have a really clear line of sight of how people are engaging with you. What you don't get as much information on is the behaviors behind them. And that's where marketing really takes a shape, is understanding authentically about those people. And it's really just, watching what they do, seeing how they act, talking to them, just talking to your customers, saying, are we doing a good job? Are we not doing a good job? At the end of every project I give myself a report card, I give my team a report card, and I ask the client to give me a report card to let me know how we did. Because I'm not looking to say you did an amazing job, you're awesome. At the end of the day, I'm just looking for one piece of advice. If there's one thing that you would change, what would that be? If there's one thing that we can improve on, what would that be? And I take that personally to me, as I'm always trying to increase my capacity for learning. And marketing is a big part of that. Now, you did mention, whiskey in the armrests or in the drawers of desks and things. So my wife and I, we do make our own bourbon, and we tend to give gifts out as like that to friends and family and clients, because we genuinely like and enjoy those things. I wouldn't recommend you just go start giving out bottles of liquor to people, because that just sounds really weird. But because we have a very authentic history with it, we've been doing it for 5 or 6 years, just making our own, cultivating, like learning the trade of it. We have a passion, we have a love for it. And when we talk to clients about that, the conversation is less about the business and more about the people.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn more about them that way. And, it's really, really great. I've given a few prototype bottles away, bottles I would never, ever give away or sell. I gave them away to clients because they had such an admiration for it. And I was like, well, would you like to try some? Here's a sample bottle. They're like, really? I'm like, it's actually the prototype, but yeah, it's a sample bottle. And they loved it, because it was that moment where we connected, and it wasn't about getting money, or it wasn't about making a sale. It was about genuinely liking each other. Because if you don't like who you work with, it's not going to go well.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you want to do business with people who you like.
and you want to work for people who you like as well. It's a two-way street. Like, you can't just do business for clients. You have to work with people. It has to be a really great team. And when you're younger, unfortunately, you're going to have to come to the table and not like some people you work with, and that's part of paying your dues. And everybody does it. We all have done it at some point, but you learn from that.
Hugo, so at Stradea, like what are some other ways that you apply marketing? Like what's in your marketing strategy, the main pillars in your organization? I'll tell you why I'm asking that is
Yep.
throughout the term, a number of the students are going to be working on marketing plans for small, medium enterprises. They're going to pick one of their own course. They're going to be doing a marketing plan from all the materials that we cover through the program, and they'll be due the term. But look, how else do you apply marketing?
Very easy. So let's break it down into kind of digestible pieces. So the first is the analysis stage, and that's just understanding where you are. So you can do something as simple as a SWOT analysis, and that's your strengths, your weakness, your opportunity.
We're doing them this week. It's perfect.
Yes,
perfect timing. Right?
Super great. The trick with that is the strength and the weakness is internal to your company. It's things that you can control. But the opportunity and threats are external. They're things that you can't control. Let's say, for example, let's say you are a financial investment company, and you're saying, well, what's a threat? Well, the stock market is in absolute downward spiral and hysteria right now. So you can't control that, but that is going to impact your business some way, shape, or form. So if you were doing a SWOT analysis, you would say, well, that's a threat. What might be an opportunity that could kind of counteract that balance? Right. And those are little things that I would do. So I always like starting with the SWOT analysis because it's very, very easy to understand, very easy to implement. There's other models that I like using. I won't get into too much detail, but my personal favorite is called the Delta. And it's basically a triangle, and there's 3 points to it. There's one that's system lock-in, one that's price conscious, and one that's consumer focus. And really, all you want to do is figure out where on that line your business is. So, Costco or Walmart might be on price centric, whereas Amazon would have been on customer solution. They've kind of moved up to system lock-in because they just own everything now, but they eventually learn to evolve on that triangle. And they're always at one point, they're more customer focused, but they're still really good price. They can kind of be in the middle of that line.
Give the 3 points again. I think this will be useful for the students.
So the top point is system lock-in. So companies like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, companies that are so big that people build to be part of them.
Yeah, or like a McDonald's or
right.
Yeah.
McDonald's would be really great. McDonald's would be a great example of that. And then you have the price conscious, which would be something like Walmart, would be a really great example of that, or low costing, the bulk barn, things like that, no frills. And then you have the customer solution focus. So you'd have organizations like Nordstrom, the clothing line. They're really, really great customer service. I forget, there was not Sunwing, there's an airline. WestJet would be considered kind of customer solution. They're really great for customer support. And then, you have people that go on the line in between. So Costco, for example, really great customer service, but also really great pricing. So they'd be kind of just in the middle of that line on those 2 points. And you can be in that line somewhere, and you figure out where you go in that world of things. So I love using that because that gives me a frame of mind of where my business should be. Then I start looking at all those 3 stages of awareness, consideration, and decision. So awareness is very much social media. You're very much looking for social media there. If you're looking on digital for consideration and deciding and decision making, you go to Google Ads, Google AdWords. You get really good with those tools because those are really, really important. But then because I'm creative and because I work in a design field, I like to do a little bit of physical design. So when I meet with clients, I actually give them a record. Like, I'll buy a record. I have a big record collection. I give them one of my records, but I actually make my own record sleeve, and on it has a QR code that they can scan. It'll take them to a greeting page on my website. So I know when they come to the page, I get a notice. They can ask questions, and it gives them all the little bit of interactive details. But I can track that with Google Analytics. It's a gift that they get. It's an actual record they can play on a record player. And little things like that, where I'm able to give them a piece of our personality. It's a portfolio of all of our samples. So there's little cards inside of all of our past design work, our favorite ones, not a lot, 4 or 5 pieces. And we can track it. We can make it really engaging. But to them, they see this physical gift. They didn't pay for it. They didn't do anything for it. I just dropped it off to them, and they get a gift before we even start. And that makes them feel good because people want to feel special. So for me, it's always about how to make someone feel important. Social media does it in a certain way, but it's very self-fulfilling.
It is, yeah.
And Google Ads makes a person make a decision. So if you just pay more than anybody else, you'll do very well. When I was working at BMO, there was a funny situation where TD app was paying more for the word BMO than BMO was when you're searching on Apple for the BMO app. So TD would always show
Bank of
above.
Montreal for the internet.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. Yeah, Bank of Montreal and Toronto Dominion Bank. So the two of the biggest banks in Canada, number 2 and number 3 actually. So TD would spend more on advertising for BMO, the word BMO, than Bank of Montreal would. And the reason was that they would always show up on top, and it was basically just like a big kick in the face. But for BMO to pay more than TD, they were just wasting a ton of money just to try to go a level above. And for a certain time they did that when they saw no actual return. And that's where analytics comes into play. Sometimes you put money into something thinking it's going to be a great idea, and you review back and you say, was it really a great idea? Not so much. And you have to be willing to step away from that and say, all right, let's try something different. But you also have to be willing to see it through. So don't try after a week and say it's not working, I'm going to stop. Give it at least 3 months or 4 months. That's what a marketing plan should be. It should last up to 3 months realistically before you see traction building.
And then based on some of those plans you've put together, Hugo, how do you measure the success of marketing, not only for yourself but for your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually give a benchmark. So we talk and say, this is our objective. This is where we would like to see those pieces go. And if we say, after a 3-month campaign, we would like to, like we were thinking to see realistically by industry standards, and you do a little bit of research on online and see what the industry tends to do on these types of things. You say, industry standard is this much. So this is our first campaign. We're expecting to get maybe a little less than standard. Mm-hmm. And then as we get better and better, we're going to grow better. So we look at that baseline. And then after so many campaigns, we have a good solid baseline to say, on average, this is what our return is on these elements. Moving forward, how can we get better? How can we improve? And one of the funny things that we always talk about in marketing is that when everything is going great, a company will let all the marketing people go. And then when everything's going really bad, they'll hire a bunch of marketing people and thinking they're going to help them. And that's actually the worst. That's the worst thing you can do, because it doesn't solve your problem and it takes time to build it. When you're doing really well, that's when you need to double down on marketing, because you're going to then weather the storm by all of the additional effort you have when you're able to do it.
Do you think it's fair for the students when they're interviewing for a marketing firm, ask where they are in the life cycle of their marketing campaigns?
I mean, I think it's a great question to ask. I would ask maybe a question more along the lines of, what type of return do you see on your marketing campaigns, and how long do you run your campaigns for? How long? Yeah. There's always a sense of branding when it comes to marketing, and you really need to understand that brand to understand how the marketing will work. A lot of companies do some really amazing thing. Nike comes to mind. Like, I love everything that Nike does. They've been I'm a great admirer of theirs for years. Some of the earlier Apple products were great. The Steve Jobs era, I like to call it, was some of my favorite times in innovation. It's just a huge fan of Steve Jobs. Don't have an Apple computer, never will, but I mean, I have an iPhone, I have a tablet. I have 2 iPhones actually. Yeah. But great company, great products all the way through. Just architecture being what they are. So I have a preference. But yeah, marketing is really important. Branding is really important. I think it's all about. But you can tell. Like, look at Hewlett Packard and look at Apple. Who would you rather buy a computer from if you have the option? If someone's going to give you a computer for free, who would you take? A lot of Apple stuff is all about branding. It's about creating a culture. And that's what marketing is. It's creating a culture of people that are like-minded. And that's, again, just something we call confirmation bias. You build to what people can relate to.
As I'm using an HP Envy in my office.
I actually have an HP. I have a Pro right now. And again, great computers. I'm just making the example of Apple because I would say Razer and nobody knows what I'm talking about. So that's the other computer that I have.
You mentioned, Hugo, you mentioned branding, and I've mentioned to the students the importance of not only branding for an organization, but personal branding as well. And I've given them the term already that their brand precedes them. In other words, people know everything about them before they meet them. And in the world of positioning for a career in marketing, I think the students are really wrapping their heads around, a lot of them already have, of if I Google myself, what do I find? What are recruiters looking at to make a decision to even call me into the competition? And I've always been a big proponent at the college to give the students an edge, because interviews are over in 30 seconds. You and I both agree on that.
Yep.
Also, they're going to be competing with tens of thousands of college graduates and university graduates every single year. I need these students to have an edge. What's your advice for personal branding for these students? What are some things they could be doing?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, when you search Hugo Gatsby, you would actually find a video of a dog that wasn't me by any means, or a video that I ever made, but it was a dog on, and it eventually got to me on the front page of Google for my own name. But it's tough. I've had a bit of an identity crisis over my life because of my disability. I didn't talk about it much growing up, and not until I was closer to 30. And at that point, I didn't really understand what branding was as a personal brand. I would do it for clients and I would do it for companies, and I had this very strategic way of looking at it. But I never thought of myself as an influencer or a persuasive person, because I've always had my own issues with communication and challenges of that capacity.
Okay.
So I think branding is all about, just, again, I've said being authentic, being genuine. I think that's very much what it is. Any interest you have, there are millions of people in the world who have the exact same interests as you. The more interest you have, the more that number grows.
Right.
So your personal brand will relate to people. I think your goal is to find out who those people are, and relate to those people in some way, shape, or form. Take Neil and myself, for example. We have a bunch of similarities, but the differences between us can probably fill the Grand Canyon. And that's the thing. We're still great friends. We're still great associates. We're still great business partners, but we do have our differences and we see things differently. And I think that perspective is also important when it comes to branding, because you're never the smartest person in the room. Yeah. You're all collectively a lot smarter than any individual one of us. Mm-hmm. And that's what I truly believe. So I love coming into situations where I get to thrive by talking and asking questions and being curious, because I'm more interested in what you have to say than what I'm thinking. I already know what I'm thinking. My goal is to find out what you're thinking. And right. I think that's what branding should be about, is how do you relate to others in a way that they want to approach you and find out about you?
What questions would you ask the students to consider?
In what capacity?
Well, what you just mentioned, what do they want to be known as?
Yeah.
If given them, right? Mm-hmm. How would you augment that?
I think purpose is probably the one word that comes to mind. And I had an exercise that I did back when I was teaching in my first master's, and I would have, and it was a design class, but I would have the students start with, so at the beginning of the term, we would start with a project, and I would have them write down, 10 ideas for this project, and then say, okay, you can't use those 10 ideas, write another 10. And I'd review them. I was like, you can't use those either, write another 10. And they said, now you can only use half of those, but you have to write another 10 on top of it. By the time they were done, they had 50 ideas, but they can only use 10 of them. And then what happened was they started to think in a different way. And then by the end of the term, the last project, which is normally a very, very difficult, like a big project, I simply asked them is, what is your purpose? Take all the steps we did the entire term and talk about your purpose. And although it sounds like a very simple concept, it made students come to tears to not realize what their purpose was. And they went through, right. 100, by that point, they're going through almost 100 different things of what their purpose was. And they kept breaking it down. But at the end of it, it became just, euphoric. And they had such laser focus on who they wanted to be that the rest of their career, and I've had some students of mine reach out to me, and over COVID and just say, you were such a pivotal person in my career. And this is, back in 2010, I taught them. And now they're like, senior partners of like venture capitalist firms, and they're creative directors of like advertising agencies, and they've done really well. But it was because of those conversations that made them understand what they're really doing.
Any examples of purposes that really stand out for you?
I think I can't at the top of my head right now. You're putting me on the spot for that one.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely look into it. I just remember that there was one person who felt like, I remember they said they felt like an ant. And I'm paraphrasing this, but remember they said they felt like an ant, and their goal was to move mountains. And they literally started a web design company. I think it was called Blue Ant Media. And it was really neat because when I heard that, I was like, I know exactly why he's doing that. And it's really cool. And he's been successful. I mean, I see his posts all the time, and has a pretty good following. But it's really neat because you think you know what your purpose is, and as you get into it, you start to shape and mold that a little bit more. And that's really your brand. It's what you stand for, what you believe in. And when you believe in it, everything else just kind of falls in place.
Hugo, what advice would you offer the students?
Be yourself. Be yourself. If I would have been anything sooner, it would be yourself. I definitely think that, and build a support system, build a proper support system. My career probably accelerated tenfold when I met my wife. When we were dating my wife, I think it took off. And then I think that was a support system that I never quite had. I was made fun of a lot by my friends. I'm the brunt of most of my jokes. I'm like the only friend, I'm the only person in my family who's gone to an Ivy League school. Now my cousin has gone to one too, so we're kind of like on the same boat. But when I was younger, a lot of my friends would make fun of me for going to Harvard because they're like, "Oh, he's a Harvard guy, thinks he's better than everybody."
Yeah.
I'm still in the same city. I'm still in the same basement, hanging out with my cousin, still playing video games. When I'm I'm like, I still do it now. I'm turning 40 and I still play video games with my cousin because we're genuinely those type of people. But what I realized is that that support system wasn't the support system that I needed. And I've gone through several different versions of supports and systems. And Neil's been a support system to me at certain points in my life. I think before I even started Stradea, he was the kind of person that broke me into that catalyst. He's been a great mentor to me. So you guys are very, very fortunate to have him. But I've had I had great advice given to him from him and my wife. And sometimes I think the last piece, and I apologize, I ramble on sometimes, but I think know that it's okay to fail. And by fail, I mean, you need to learn. I've started businesses that have failed. We would have made 2 million in the first year and we still came off at a loss. I picked the wrong business partners to get into business with. I made the wrong choices when I would if I was moving somewhere or taking a job, I could have done something a little better. When I was in military school, I had the opportunity to go to, aerospace, and I declined it just because I wanted to be a little bit more normal. I don't think normal is something that people strive for nowadays. I think everybody wants to be different, and I think everyone is. So, be yourself, get a good support system, and know that it's okay to fail, and learn from it, mind you. It's not just go fail every time, but learn from your failures because you're going to get better every single time.
Hugo, how can people follow you? Where can they find you?
I think I'm the only Hugo Gatsby online, so pretty easy. I love using LinkedIn. I have an Instagram following too. I'm mostly just in LinkedIn. I kind of go through love-hate with social media, so I really just focus on those two because they're the ones that I at least have a joy for still. So I say that's it. Find me on LinkedIn. More than happy to chat. Do you have any questions? Please let me know. I'm always available. I mean, my schedule is really busy, but I do find time to talk with everybody.
Always call people back, man.
Yeah, exactly. Always.
So Hugo, on behalf of Marketing 1301, Principles of Marketing, I get some great students, man. Just some really awesome people from around the globe are on our calls.
Awesome.
We're on every Friday. And so, as I mentioned, I'm gonna send this video to them. You're the first speaker of the term. I've got a lot of speakers lined up.
Yay.
I think this stuff here is invaluable for students. The thing is everything you said can, for all intents and purposes, be found in the textbook, but not to the same degree, right? It's not. It could be the wrong case study. It could be this is RBC. As a student, you may or may not relate to that. What I want them to do is relate to a real business owner who's running a design lab, right? A web-based design lab and a strategic consulting company. And I want them to hear the real world advice, which has been the goal of these all along. So it's a Monday. It's snowing like crazy out right now. Hugo, go get warm, have a glass of bourbon.
Will do. Oh, one thing I do want to mention, and I think this is something that I've realized as a designer, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah.
Don't be willing to make a buck if you're going to have to cut your prices and discount and do all these things. I think that that's a really important, and no one ever told me that in my career. I had to figure that out the wrong way. I would just start charging more and more and more to a certain point that I was like, this is what I'm worth.
Yeah.
And every time it got bigger and bigger. But I wish I would have learned, I wish I would have known that earlier in my life. Again, you have to start low, but you can build yourself up. Don't stay low.
Yeah. I like giving that advice. What would you value your time per hour?
I'm not going to say that my time's pretty expensive, but I actually value my time at a certain, I mean, I charge right now, I charge 175 an hour for my time. And then I only pay myself $40 an hour of that, because this way I build my business effectively, and I don't diminish the returns long term. So I'm now, and plus I have like, I teach, I have my own company, and I'm an advisor and a board of directors. So with each revenue stream comes a little bit of freedom, and that's the way that I can, take a year off or take 2 years off and still get paid and not have to worry about it. And I've had a couple of points where my wife and I discussed, should I take a year off just to find myself? And I don't think I need to, because what I'm doing is finding myself in the process, and I enjoy it. So
yeah, you've already done that. You've already done
yeah, it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for all of us all the time. But I think, you really want to make sure that you're just being true to yourself. Don't sell yourself short. You shouldn't. Everybody's amazing in their own right. You just got to figure out what that thing that drives you is going to be.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, Hugo. Nice.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nice little interview here. Nice. I think this is going to be very valuable for the students, especially for the rest of the term when they do their marketing plans.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Cheers, Hugo.
Have a great day.